Boy, oh boy. These days are just nuts. Nuts. You know, I haven't even looked at my hair. You take you take one day to sleep in because you need the rest, and everything whole day schedule just gets nuts. I'm used to being up at 5:30 most mornings. I woke up at 8:45 this morning. I had a hard time going to sleep. I had crazy dreams when I finally did go to sleep, but it's been a backlog day as a result. So appreciate as always the flexibility with you guys. We've got for the wine today a Greco de Tufo. Now this is we've had a Greco de Tufo before. This is from the Bay of Naples, and guys we're gonna mix it up. Don't worry, I'm just trying to clear out what's left in the cellar, and I got a bunch of Italians. But I've also been really eager to try this because I really think that the Southern Italian whites are some of the most incredible stuff between Etna Bianco, between Fiano di Avellino, between Greco de Tufo, plenty of others. La Crema is like a deep lemon, deep yellow. There's a little bit of green, but it's the impression you initially get is that it's a really rich yellow color. I got to show you guys this bottle again because you're going to want to buy this one. This is real good. Real good wine right here. It is super refreshing. There's a lot of minerality. Fruit ranges from the usual sort of citrus that you'd get, but you even get some like tropical notes in here. There's like a little bit of yeastiness, which I like. I think it's like a nice little. They call it autolytic, right? It's like a nice little bit of yeast left over from the process, and I enjoy it because it gives a little breadiness, just a little bit of bread taste to it. And let's see what else we get. There's a little bit of minerality too. Let me try to draw that out. Yeah, yeah. It's almost like a little bit of like a flinny kind of taste. But it's all crisp and refreshing, and there's multiple layers. There's multiple layers to it. Um, but we can talk about the flavors and stuff. But what's really most important here is that the wine is interesting, yet it's also refreshing and it's well structured. Okay. Sometimes you'll have a wine like I think that structure is the most important thing when it comes to a wine because some flavors are cool, whatever, but it's important to get the alcohol and acidity ratio correct. If there's too much alcohol, the wine tastes flabby. It's not refreshing. If there's too much acidity, it can be a little bit too much biting. Um, this has a really when the wine is structured correctly, you can just keep drinking it, and that's what the mark of a good table wine. That's the mark of a good table wine, in my perspective. I've talked about table wine before. Table wine is not interesting, and it might be a little thin, right? A little thin, so you can make an argument, maybe a -1 against structure, but the wine is there's no part of it that jumps out as jarring from the rest. So again, I'll show this one last time so you guys who want to check it out can get it. Um, but this is, I mean, I'm always just so impressed by the Southern Italian whites. Although I think that the last Fiano we had was a little disappointing. So it's good to get us back in the elite ranges here. As for you guys, posting about the beer, I respect the beer. I respect the beer drinkers out there. I'm not a fan. I mean, I had a Corona last night, guys. I had a Corona. I'm okay with light kind of Mexican context, but I'm not. I don't like the way I feel after drinking a beer. And the other thing about beer is that I can drink it when I haven't been eating, but the second I eat food, I feel like crap eating. I can't drink any more beer. And IPAs are just like to me. I mean, I feel so terrible after drinking an IPA, and I don't even really love the flavor. So I respect it. I'll just make a little quick funny story about beer before we get to the COVID stuff. When a beer that I really did like, was cask ales. Cask ales are an English thing. So one of my favorite parts about going to London when I was dating my wife was stopping by and getting like a London Pride or a Fuller's from the tap there. Now, cask ales have this reputation in Britain for being for like old English men kind of drink them at the pub, but I love them, and I love them for this reason. So they're actually quite light. Okay, they're only usually 4 to 5% alcohol, and they're very refreshing. But the other thing is that the foam, it's kind of like a Guinness. It's not like a Guinness exactly, but what I mean is that it's because they're in a cask, they're not like popping the bubbly condensation, and that's the stuff that actually, the carbonation rather, not condensation. That's the stuff that really messes me up with beer. I think even more than the breadiness of it, the wheat. So I mean, I love that stuff. I could drink cask ales easily. I could drink cask ales like I could drink wine. And I was really disappointed. In Manhattan, there was a pub that actually had cask ale, like London Pride Fuller, on tap, and it was a block away from me. Mad Hatter. And for reasons unknown, they closed down in like early 2019 or late 2018. It was a real bummer. I had a lot of fun there. If like I wanted to go grab a drink with a friend, that's where I'd go. So just put me more into the wine scene, you know? That was all I had to do with it. So anyway, guys, all right. I didn't have time to write them down, so I got to look at my little note list. There are a couple things. I read a lot of crazy stuff these last couple days. Oh, God damn. I can't see whether my cap locks are on or not. So it's like, keep getting the password wrong. All right, there we go. All right. So first, let's just get a little couple updates here. Just a couple random things that have been occurring. So we had a couple of small plane crashes, which are always interesting. I think that the sort of statistic is that plane crashes are, I think it's like 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 plane crashes, like small plane crashes. All these things are not coincidences, right? Other things are going on with it, which will bring us to something else that we're going to be talking about. It's kind of a bigger topic, but there's a small plane crash in Nevada, sort of Utah area. A state representative in Alaska also died in a plane crash. Interesting stuff. Who knows what's going on there, right? Who knows? But just keeping track of things. Ellen's show is being shut down. Now there's been some negative press. I didn't read it. I got sent an article today. I didn't have any time to read it, but an article about Ellen and her kind of collapsing reputation. Kind of interesting. Oprah's magazine's finished. Kind of interesting progress, it seems like to me. Certainly things that wouldn't like let's just put this out here. If there's nothing else going on, it just seems kind of strange that stuff would be going away. You would almost think that these shows would be, but they would be doing more of this stuff in light of the corona, right? In light of corona, that people are held up inside. You'd want to get more celebrity exposure, keep people entertained while they can't do anything themselves. Not happening. Instead, the two big people who have been having these shows, Ellen in particular, I mean, Ellen really is a big name. They're going down. Uncle Barry from New Zealand. Hi, Uncle Barry. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say this. I forgot to mention this to AJ. I do like Malbecs. And the one thing I'll say about Malbecs is that there's only a couple places that really do elite stuff, but Malbecs are one of those wines that you really know, you can always predict it's going to be solid for the table. Their issue is getting to like an elite level, but if you don't know what to order in a Malbec for a red, it's usually going to be pretty satisfying. You could say a similar thing for New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Most people like it. I think that's the white version. Just wanted to say that. I forgot a comment here. All right, so a couple other things here. Now, let's start off by talking about. Wait, I want to finish the small things first. We're going to get the big things afterwards. Small things first. So we had that big protest with Hollywood, anti-human trafficking in Hollywood. Pretty interesting, pretty cool. Pretty cool to actually see people getting mobilized. I think we're going to see a lot more of this come the fall. I think that regular America, I'm going to say regular America, and I don't want to say like left and right, because I think increasingly, I mean, obviously there's still more to the left with these people, but I we got to try to drop away from the polarity. It's people who have woken up versus people who haven't. Like, I was about a week and a half ago, I was out with some friends in New York, and I mean, I would not consider, we don't all have the same, I think, philosophies, but everybody here, it was the six of us, my wife and four other friends, and some are like come from more like liberal backgrounds, some more conservative dispositions, and we were all, I mean, they wouldn't maybe get a little, some of them would be a little freaked out from this Periscope. Not all though. I know some of them are watching it. I know you guys. I'm not going to call you out, but I know some of you are watching it. Um, but I mean, we were all on the same page, and we kind of agreed. It's like, it's really people who are just completely tied into the propaganda and people who aren't. Like, it's not about politics. It's just like people who understand they're being lied to and people who don't. And I think we shouldn't underestimate how many people are really skeptical about COVID. The deaths are so far down now, and yet, and there's so much evidence of data manipulation with it. CDC, multiple labs just completely fabricating results, people not showing up for their tests and getting positive results. And we have this kind of situation now where people are still like, it's science. Science is telling us that this is like, you can look around and you don't see it. And there's a lot of people who, would not be pro-Trump or whatever, but they like to do things. They're more like active individuals. They're not very fearful individuals. This is important because your vibration is becoming a big part of who's waking up and who isn't. Right? Vibration's a big part of it, because people who are out, that's really interesting, by the way. Hospitalizations have gone down 20%. Yeah, I mean, but people who are not really like afraid individuals, they viscerally will rebel against fear programming. Even if it doesn't fit their political ideology, they're going to be like, sorry, but I don't really feel afraid, and I don't see any reason to be afraid. So why are you telling me to be afraid? And that's the thing here, is that they're trying to corral more and more negative people. And guys, positive energy is so much more powerful than negative energy, right? I posted this. I've been checking out some of Stephen Hawkins, different kind of brand of person. David Hawkins books, right? Power versus Force being the classic. And he estimates, right, that, I mean, somebody who's at level 500, which is like the first kind of tier of high vibration, moving out of mid to high vibration, they have more energy than 75. They produce more energy impact than 75,000 people at a level of pride, which is 190, right, or something like 160, whatever he classifies that. The top of low vibration. So it's pretty interesting. So yeah, they're pulling from a smaller and smaller energy bank, because there's just less and less people to pull from, and they're not as powerful as the people who are awake and who are positive. So Hollywood, they're out there and they're rioting, or they're protesting, let's say. Protesting is fair to say. In Hollywood, talking about the trafficking, good stuff. Some Epstein updates. Right? So we have now evidence from the Maxwell testimony, or from the transcripts, right, of the case. We have that, well, Trump was never observed with Epstein, right? Epstein said that he was friends with Trump, but she never saw him at any of the gatherings. She never saw him at the house. She never had any experience with him whatsoever. I mean, there's a point to be made that why would Epstein tell her that he's friends with Trump? Maybe he was just saying he's friends with everybody. Maybe Trump was kind of pretending to be friendly with him. Probably the most likely thing, but wasn't going to the island, right? Wasn't partaking. But I mean, let's contrast it to Clinton, who was seen with young women, girls, two girls on the island. So we now know that Clinton was there. And I got to tell you guys, I mean, I'm seeing more and more stuff from, what people who you would expect to be sort of normies on. They're saying, so Clinton really did rape those children. Like, these are not like Trump mega Q account. No, this is like just, I'm just gonna be blunt, like some like black dude, some random black dude who like listens to music and like shit post. He's like, so Clinton's raping people. Clinton raped those girls. Like, that is a pretty good barometer of people waking up. Pretty soon, it's only going to be like the Karens. It's only going to be the Karens who are going to be left behind until they realize everyone hates them, and then maybe they'll flip then, because Karen's all about being being on the right side. So yeah, and related to this stuff, we have Dershowitz, who's really now being, Dershowitz, the big attorney, who at certain points, was kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth. You might have thought he was a good person. I mean, I didn't really get a sense that he was a good person. I kind of got neutral. I didn't have any real perspective on him. Well, that's the thing. No one's really surprised that Bill's a part of it, but it's like there's always been this sort of, oh, well, it doesn't mean it. Like people just kind of brush it aside. But now, when people were talking about Clinton doing these things, it was before Epstein had really hit public consciousness. Now, I can tell you in my circles, everybody talks about Epstein. And everyone has issues with it. And the only thing stopping it, which is really big, because once people see the truth of it, like, and it comes out that pretty much everybody who's against Trump is Epstein connected. Yeah, well, so I don't know. I mean, it seems like, for instance, Epstein had a thing for young girls, but not prepubescent. And it does seem like a lot of the girls were not prepubescent. I'm not sure about it wasn't really specified from what I saw with Clinton. Although we do know that children are part of the trafficking. And I think that the big thing here is like, what are your tastes, right? What are your tastes? Sort of like more of a vanilla taste that just want to be with a post-pubescent girl, even if she is beneath the age, right? It's definitely different. I mean, I think we have to distinguish between girls who are under 15 and girls who are over. I know this is like dark topic, but like I heard, what's her face? Who's that Gossip Girl celebrity? I think it was her. I heard her talking about how they were, she's been trying to crack down on child trafficking, and these were babies. She was talking about babies who were born, like literally they were raped the moment they were born. I mean, can you imagine just how evil you have to be to do something like that? How sick and fucked up you have to be to try to rape a newborn baby. I mean, it's just beyond the pale. So I think that, in all fairness, not to say that something is right, you do have to distinguish between having sex with like a 16-year-old girl when you're 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever, with doing that. I mean, it's quite a different. Yeah, Blake Lively, thank you. That is her name. So related to stuff with that, we have Virginia Roberts, right? She was Prince Andrew, of course, is indicted with all this stuff too. But Virginia Roberts, Prince Andrew. Virginia Roberts was, for the record, a girl who had created a lawsuit about this stuff. FBI apparently now knew about it. FBI sat on the information. Doesn't look very good. Now, let me see here. I just want to get rid of some of these smaller things. I want to get rid of some of these smaller things before we talk about the big stuff. So I heard something, and I'm going to say I don't believe this. I don't believe it. I think I listened to a very, very long Q interview the other day where they talked about some disclosure, and there was some interesting stuff in there. As always, you got to use your own discernment. I saw something that I thought was really not so. They were talking about China. Okay. So, China's one-child policy, and that communist China initially only allowed access to port cities, and that in the interior of China it wasn't allowed, and that if you had in the story that was coming out is that if you had more than one babies in the Yellow River or the Yangtze River, I can't remember which one it was, and they had some New York Times reporter was given special access, and they saw all these babies in the river, and so this was supposed to indicate that, well, this story is true, that they have to get rid of babies, they abort babies, forcibly abort babies, put them in the river. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. But what these people were saying is that actually, in fact, that was not really the case, in that families were only allowed to have one baby, but they could have more, and that the state would take them, maybe even pay them for it, and that these children went to trafficking. Okay. Do I think that this happened? I'm sure that there were cases where this happened. There is no question. I think there's no question that if this stuff has been going on for, and of course it has been going on for decades, right? It's been going on for probably a lot longer than that. There's no question that a lot of babies in China, given the nature of the regime and the policies, that they were trafficked and tortured and slaughtered, and I'm certain that happened. I'm certain that happened. Can we say that this was what was going on across the board in China? Absolutely not. Can you imagine how ridiculous it would be, like how obvious a story that would be if that was going on? Like, sorry, people have emigrated from China since then. Like, even though Chinese people have do you think that families wouldn't talk about the fact that, oh yeah, we got paid money from government officials? That one family wouldn't mention it out of the billion people in China. So I mentioned this little aside, because you really have to be careful with the stuff that people say in like the truther community, because there's a lot of people who are very, very sensitive, and they have a desire for the world to be different. And so they will talk about the negatives as if they are like, they don't have a real balanced perspective with things. So they'll say that this stuff happened across the board. Everybody was doing it. Everybody did this stuff. And then they'll say, and now once the stuff's disclosed, everybody's going to we're going to see everything, all the justice done to them, and we're going to have a completely new world where everybody can do everything they want, and free energy is going to be there for everybody. And it's very tedious for me to hear these things. Not because I'm not an optimistic person. I'm very optimistic, and I know this stuff has been going on, but we have to be realistic about the fact that it's been going on in the shadows. Okay, it's been going on in certain situations, and their children have disappeared. Their children disappear across the country. You can't say all the children who disappear across the country are going to trafficking. You can say a sizable number are, but you can't say it every single one does that. And when you start to say that, then you start to make yourself look not credible. Also, I have to make a point that while I believe that the vibration of the planet's going up and we are headed for a golden age, I believe that. I believe that all the stuff, Tesla free energy, I believe all that stuff's true. And that 2030s and beyond is going to be about us finding our place in the stars. Which, by the way, there are some people who claim that space isn't even real, and that everything is within and everything outside is a illusion, which is, again, like, take these people with a grain of salt, because how much can you really conceal? Okay, the kingdom of heaven is inside of you, yes, but also there is space outside, and there's more to it than, so let's, okay, like, I just want to be balanced here. But I'm sorry, but as we can tell right now, a lot of people are not waking up, and they will wake up one way or another. Most of them will, not all, but there's a lot of healing to be done. There's a lot of healing to be done. People are not just going to suddenly, this stuff's going to be disclosed, and then they're all like high vibration. We're all at the level of love and joy. No, this is a multi-generational process. Okay, it's multi-generational. This is the inflection point. I actually believe very strongly that millennials are a spiritual warfare generation. It's a spiritual warfare generation, and that our job is to do the brunt work of clearing out generational trauma. I believe that. But let's not pretend that everything just like people have to do the work. You don't rise up unless you do the work. Like that doesn't happen. We can create an environment where there's more support mechanisms for those people, but you don't just like change your energy because something else externally happens. No, you have to do the work. You got to do the work. So anyway, things are going to get better, but let's not get utopian here. All right, let's not get utopian here. All right, I'm gonna pass on some of these things because like, what's the big deal here? You know, let's get to the meat. All right, let's get to the meat. Let's get to the meat. All right. Some things. All right, all right. First thing I want to talk about. All right, first big thing. Let's talk about JFK Jr. Let's talk about JFK Jr. Okay, because there was something said in here. Again, same people. They said something. That wine's so good. They talked about how JFK Jr. There's a lot of talk about him coming back, becoming vice president. Some people are saying it's going to happen on election night. I find this stuff to be crazy. I'm a believer in the fact that JFK Jr. is alive. Okay, I'm becoming a believer in that. And here's why: because the argument here is that they were killing off the Kennedys. Now, the same people who, Trump owns Dogecoin. He owns Dogecoin. I think that you guys need to buy up on Dogecoin. I got a couple thousand Dogecoins the other day, because I know it's gonna blow up. Dogecoins, guys, only Dogecoins. I actually should get a Dogecoin. I want to get one. So these same people, they were saying, Joe Kennedy was really just a wonderful person, and he raised his children to be wonderful people, and they were all, perfect individuals, and all the stuff about JFK sleeping with women wasn't true. And again, like, why does it have to be so binary? Why can't we look at people holistically, right? Why can't we say, okay, Joe Kennedy was maybe, he was kind of a tough, ruthless guy who wanted big things for his children. He wanted his children to be good people, but he operated in a really, he had to do what he had to do during those time periods. Why do we have to say that JFK had zero human faults whatsoever? Why do we have to say that? Oh, JFK never had an affair. Why do we have to say that? That was what does that even mean in the context of this other stuff? Right? Like, we can accept Trump now as being somebody who, yeah, he's, slept with some girls. He hasn't been perfect. He's a human. He's fundamentally polarized positively, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have problems. He doesn't have his own work he had to go through. So I find this stuff tedious, and then trying to explain away everything with Ted Kennedy. Like, Ted Kennedy was actually good, and they tried to kill him, and all the stuff at Chappaquiddick was a setup. And well, then why did Ted Kennedy become like the most favorite person from all of the cabal people? The Lion of the Senate, Ted Kennedy. Seems to me like Ted decided maybe it wasn't worth it. I don't want to get killed like my brothers, so I'm gonna sell out a little bit. So, point here, all right? I'm just trying to paint a human picture. But it's true, the Kennedys were being killed. Okay, Kennedys were being killed. I don't know if you guys recall. I was quite young. I was too young to party. I was too young to party with stuff, but it was a big thing back in the early 2000s to have like dead Kennedys parties, right? People would dress up as different Kennedys who had died. So the story goes, JFK's death was faked. Now, see, I probably should have done some better research, guys, but when I was first hearing about the JFK being alive, I didn't understand that this is what they were saying. I thought they were saying that the plane crashed, but he survived the plane crash and he's alive. And I'm like, this is not really persuasive. But to have the entire plane crash faked, that's a different thought. Okay, I didn't think about it like that. I didn't understand that was the argument. It's plausible. That's plausible. It could happen. Could be the case. And here's why it could be the case. There's another point here. So Trump, 3 days after JFK's plane crash on Jay Leno opened. We're talking about JFK Jr., not JFK Sr. JFK Jr. JFK Jr. He's about almost 60 years old right now. No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. I'm sorry. I probably forgot to say Jr. So, yeah, that would be pretty crazy, right? If JFK is not dead. He's not dead. He faked his assassination. Um, so so Trump on Jay Leno, he opens up a letter from JFK Jr., who, by the way, Trump and JFK Jr. were like best friends. Really, really close people, really, really close to each other. And Trump was very sad, but he said, I got this letter, and he reads it. And the letter was postmarked 2 or 3 days after, like it was written 2 or 3 days after the crash, basically saying like everything's good, like don't stress. Um, Basically, like telling Trump to not worry about this kind of stuff, right? And that he's okay. And it was written afterwards, signed by him. Pretty crazy, right? Pretty crazy. And that's when I was like, I haven't put any bet on Trump 2020 just simply because, I mean, I guess I could look into the markets. I've always done predicted. I don't think that their rates are very good though. And the way it works with that is like, if I have to hold up money in there and I'm not making a big return, I mean, but you're right. I probably should just put money down and probably okay, you got 2.7. I'll find some place and put some money down on it. I mean, I have no doubt he's going to win. I've been doing predicted. I think predicted's pretty weak at the moment. But anyway, so this idea that he's alive, that he's actually alive, and to be honest, it's kind of coming out as being true with Q. There was some stuff saying that JFK Jr. was going to be seen at a rally. There was somebody there wearing sunglasses that looked very much like it would have been him. They said he would be there. There's also a woman there who looks like identical to his wife would have looked, right? That's kind of like if you do the age thing. So it's kind of, remember his entire family died on the plane crash, right? Which is, so it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. I guess we'll see. I think that there'll be disclosure about it, but there's going to have to be some things that come out that make it. I mean, obviously, Trump Kennedy would be an incredible platform. I mean, pretty tough to beat, I would say. But I don't see how they just remove Pence from it. I don't see how it happens in a smooth way. There's something will happen. I'm sure they've planned it for contingencies. But if this stuff is going to happen, like it's not just going to be like randomly, like, hey Pence, you're not going to be vice president. Now it's Kennedy. I just like the election day. I'm sorry, I just don't. It seems kind of crazy to me. Who knows? Who knows? So, what are the things we got here? Well, we got some big stuff coming up this fall. One thing that people haven't really talked too much about. Okay, all right. Let me linger on the election thing. You think elections get rigged for Biden to win? Yeah. So here's something I wasn't going to talk about, but let's mention it. You notice how Trump's been saying that mail ballots have all sorts of fraud, so maybe we should push back the election because we can't vote in person and there's all this fraud. And the left's going crazy, like, no, the election has to be at the state. I mean, this to me is very obvious bait because you're hearing more and more. I mean, his cognitive decline is so bad. I mean, it's so bad. Like, he's just not there. He's just not really there anymore. Not clear if he's even going to be the candidate, honestly, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not even certain he's going to be the candidate. The plan was never to have him actually run anything, but this is getting to be a pretty rough point. But the thing is, they have dirt on all these people. So you could very plausibly have a situation where they have to remove Biden due to his cognitive decline and all the other stuff coming out about him. They put someone like Kamala Harris in, and then she has to drop out to other things. And they put somebody else in, like Hillary Clinton or whatever. And everything just like, and they keep getting having to drop out, it's plausible that they won't even really have a viable candidate. I don't know. I think maybe I don't know how much they can switch on ballot for the party after the convention. But it's just very plausible that they're not even going to have a viable candidate for the election. Like, I'm really not so concerned about Trump losing the election. I'm concerned about what happens in October because they're going to throw the kitchen sink at it. They're going to try to assassinate him. I think that you are going to see targeted assassinations. And I think that you're going to see street violence in October. I mean, I really think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be really, really bad. And you got to be careful. I really recommend you guys be careful about provocation. Drop into the hold the container of if you drop into the polarity. Some people are going to be on killed. You're going to see it. You're going to see more people run over in the middle of the street blocking traffic. You're going to see more people shot. You're going to see targeted killings. I mean, there's no question about it. You might even realistically see issues between, you're going to see civil disobedience on the part of people against the state governments. And you're going to have situations where local and state police and federal law enforcement are going to maybe be in some difficult situations where they're being given contrary orders. The intention is going to be constantly to produce some sort of civil unrest because at this point they know they can't win. All they can do is bring it to civil war. So when I hear people say, well, why hasn't Trump done this yet? Why hasn't Trump done this yet? It's like everything is being done slowly because if it's done too fast, you're just going to get civil war. The point is to avoid a civil war. If we wanted to have a civil war and win it, we could do it now. But I mean, do we really want to kill like a couple million people? Do we really want to have families divided permanently? No. We want to bring people together because the point is to transcend the consciousness. And frankly, all that negative stuff, that gives the evil people a way out, at least a way to kind of slink away. The price is too high. I mean, if we have to go there, we have to go there, like anything's possible, which will bring me to a next thing I wanted to talk about, which is China. And I think that the really big concern here is China. Okay. It's the only thing that I have any sort of concern about, really. It's the only thing I have any real worries. The two last big countries where the cabal has operation is like full control, let's put it that way, or high levels of control was China and also Israel. But I want to focus on China here because Israel is kind of more like a backseat partner. China is really, really active. They were planning on moving their operations to China. It was planning to be the new America, basically, for their operations. And China is really fucked right now. I mean, I've talked about this before with the Three Gorges Dam. That dam is going to break, guys. And that is 300, 400 million people downstream of it. The communist regime is in a very, very bad situation. I mean, they're in a very bad situation. It's being revealed globally, their role in the virus pandemic. Their economy is in a terrible state because especially now that we've taken things off of Hong Kong, we're just not getting a ton of stuff out of them anymore. I mean, obviously there's still trade going on, but they're hurting. I mean, they're really, really hurting. And it's now been seen how they've been helping to foment the riots in the country, funding Antifa, funding Black Lives Matter, providing weapons for it. So looking at this whole thing, okay, looking at it in big picture, I mean, I bet that we're trying to take down the communist regime because there's no way we can actually build this new world so long as communist China exists. There is no other country in the world that presents more of a threat to the new age than communist China. There's none. It's not Russia. Putin's very happy to move along with it. Putin wants Russia for Russia. He wants Russia's sphere of influence, but frankly, he just really wants autonomy and not to be, fucked around with. China is a closed society, and there is a chance that they will launch nukes rather than allow their regime to go down. Now, I don't believe this will happen. There's a guy called Big Dick Anon who posts some stuff. I don't ever go on to the chans, but some people post screenshots, and I've heard of him a couple of times. He's allegedly in the Trump administration. Take these things with a grain of salt. He talks about some interesting things though about time and time traveling, basically. And I mean, I think that I don't think it's all I don't think it's all bullshit. And he was saying how that he sees more of a wasteland, basically like a Mad Max kind of world, because he thinks that it's going to go that direction with China. I don't agree, but let's just say that it could be a possible timeline. So we got to really manifest the right stuff here. We got to really be positive. I think that there'll be it's not going to be allowed to go that far. But I know that Russia is also very, very concerned about it. Russia's very, very concerned about the political domestic instability that's going on in China. China's like a dying animal. Okay, it's a dying animal. It is actually, I mean, the entire cabal is a dying animal, but you can really see it represented with China's regime, which is just not in a good position right now. So, yep. And another thing, just for the fall, I mean, we have 20 million people getting evicted, I think, October 1st. I mean, maybe that's going to be prevented. Maybe a new bill comes out that stops it from happening. But guys, if that goes forward, I mean, you better believe these protests and riots are going to get pretty serious. I got a lot more stuff here. I think I'm just going to pass on it and answer some questions because I know my phone is dying, and we can just tackle some of these the next time. But a couple more, just a couple little side things. Monsters Inc. talks a lot about the baby stuff and what they've done to children to terrify them and everything for adrenochrome. Adrenochrome's so Google apparently its chip, it's like its processor was called Adreno, and of course the browser is called Chrome. And the patent was 060606. It's just some interesting little side stuff for you. Apparently, coronavirus is an anagram for carnivorous. I don't really know if that's a big deal. Kind of interesting. Union of the Snake Duran Duran video shows underground military bases. If you guys want to check that out, Union of the Snake Duran Duran. And yeah, I heard also fried fish is a thing because basically they're skinned alive. I hate to say this. Children, they're hung and then they're skinned, and then they're dumped into the pool which is beneath, which is electrified. That's why they're called fried fish. Again, don't know if that's exactly what happens. Let's see. Yep, I mean, I think the other stuff here I'll save. Let me check out your questions. Maybe we'll go back if there's some more stuff. What's my take on the puppet thing? The Cabamore tie get the alien guy. I think Cabamore is I don't know. Oh, you mean like puppet as in clones and stuff? I mean, I'm not like anti the clone theory. I just think again people might overdo it. I've heard some people claim that like a third of the world are clones. So I mean, no, sorry, that's not the case. But Cabamore is a good guy. Cabamore, he talks. He's one of those people who has a really good read of energy, but I'm not so certain about how many all of his details are correct. But he's definitely like a positively polarized person, and he has no intention to deceive. I just don't know if his understandings of things are always accurate. but I like him. I follow him. I like him. So, so yeah. Trump wins. He returns. President Biden wins. He quits. His VP is not president. Yeah. 5-1. Yeah. We won't allow the timeline. Agree. It's going to be wild. Chauvin gets found not guilty. That'll set off lots of violence. Yeah, it could. That really could occur. That really could occur. I mean, I've heard some stuff about his case, and from a legal standpoint, he has a pretty good defense. So, I mean, the whole thing is like, I don't really believe that what we're seeing is accurate, but that would certainly be a great way to reignite the protests. No doubt about that. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, Columbus and Cleveland, Ohio, key cities. Yeah, I'm going to be staying. I mean, I go back to New York like once every 2 weeks. I'm going back this week. This is my week coming back. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm going to see a client. I'm going to hang out with friends. Um, I may pass in the fall depending on how things go. I do kind of want to be there a little bit for the action. Not that I want to really go out. I'll be safe. All right, I have good awareness. I'll be safe, but I do enjoy going to New York. I actually like. I only enjoy it because I don't have to live there now. So like our apartment is like half cleaned out, like cleaned out of belongings and plants and stuff, which kind of, but it's like a vacation. It's like kind of like a vacation place now, and it's enjoyable because we can go on these little jaunts and then leave and go to the beach and spend time here in the garden. I can't imagine living there full time now, though. I mean, I know I still have friends who live there full time, but no one seems really happy. Everybody wants to leave or is talking about leaving. When this Q stuff becomes more prevalent, they will begin to blame the Q community for assassinations. I completely agree with you, Elvis. They've already tried to, I forget something happened recently where some guy, they were saying he was a Q supporter and he tried to kill somebody. They're going to do more and more of that stuff. No question about it. So here's a good question. Do you think if the rig works and Biden wins, Trump doesn't step down? Well, BAP said something on his last podcast rather. BAP, the little punditry, and he basically talked about Q and how people in Q are not going to allow Trump to lose the election. If they do steal it, they're not going to allow it. And it was like, that's a pretty provocative statement. I actually think he's right, though. I think he's right. I think that if the election somehow gets stolen from Trump, and guys, I don't think this is going to happen. I really believe that it's going to be a landslide victory. You have like everybody's waking up. Really, everybody's waking up. And just to make I'm gonna say it. It's not PC, but from what I hear, there's this kind of whole thing that the left does where it's like versus uh, minorities versus kind of whites or whatever America. But the reality is that minorities don't really all get along with each other. I mean, if we're being honest here, a lot of the violence in Los Angeles, for instance, most of the gang violence you see is not like black on white or anything like that in either direction. It's mostly always intra community, but Hispanics and blacks like have plenty of issues with each other. And I hear it on good authority that Hispanics are not really happy about Black Lives Matter. They're not really happy about the riots. They're not really happy about these things. So even if you were to presume that most black people are still going to go with the left sort of orientation, and frankly, I don't think that it's going to be like people expect. I think that plenty are going to wake up, and I think Kanye is going to help with that. Blah blah. I'm not. I see on Twitter tons and tons of aware black people, but I mean, there was an ad recently, and it played to low vibration stuff. It played to low vibration things about, Hispanics not being represented by the Democratic Party and people don't care about Hispanics. I don't like that kind of ads. It plays to like the worst instincts in people. but it it is probably effective. It's probably effective. So I think it's going to be a hard coalition to hold together in short. So even aside from everybody else waking up, I mean, they said that registrations in PA were 5-1 in favor of Trump. I mean, that is crazy. I think during like last election, it was like 2-1, and that was considered to be a pretty big anti-poll sign. Now it's 5-1. I mean, come on, that's like crazy. But Russia is not. I would not consider Russia good. I don't consider them bad. I mean, they're just kind of they're doing. The cabal hates Russia because Russia broke away from the cabal. I've talked about this in previous periscopes. Um, Putin basically taking control of the state back. Um, yeah, I mean, Russia has been outside of cabal influence for a while, which is one of the reasons they wanted the U.S. to fight Russia. Kind of killed two birds with one stone. The cabal was pillaging Russia all throughout the 90s and early 2000s, and Putin took that away from them. But Russia is a mafia state. I mean, let's not think in binaries. Let's not think Russia is the way we want to go. I mean, Putin has been good for Russia. He will go down as a great leader of Russia, and I think he deserves it. But all that said, I mean, it is a mafia state. There's tons of corruption between the state, corruption between the church. Uh, so he's a strong leader, and Russians respect strong leaders. And strong leaders during weak times, yeah. I mean, it's big. So yeah, Soviet Union was cabal. Putin is not exactly. Um, Russia needs to invade China. I think that Russia is really trying to keep the Far East to themselves at this point. I don't know if they can. They have a settlement plan. Actually, you guys, you want to get out of Dodge? I don't know if it's a good place to go, but you want to get some land. I think you're promised 5 acres. 5 acres for 5 years. I think anybody gets Russian citizenship if they move to the Far East and they get 5 acres and they have to stay there for 5 years. And if you do that, you get to keep the land and you become a Russian citizen. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, personally, I'm a bit of a revisionist. I think that Sakhalin should go back to Japan along with the Kuril Islands. I think that Sakhalin, aka Karafudo, should go back to the Japanese. All of it. Russia's got enough out there. I also think Russia should give back Kaliningrad, either give it to Poland or give it to Germany or give it to Lithuania. Um, maybe there should be a separate Switzerland-like state. Maybe a place for the upstream guys, for you guys. We get our own little state on the Baltic. Rebuild Königsberg. But I'm also sympathetic to Russian claims in eastern Ukraine. I'm also just LARPing though. I mean, I'm just like, it's funny to me. I'm not, whatever. But although I'm not LARPing about Königsberg, I mean, I really think that Russia should not have access to Königsberg. I think that that's a crime. It was a crime